Hello, so today we're building uh, our own mechanical keyboard. Actually, to be honest, I started it and I thought I was recording, but apparently I wasn't. So, apologies for that. And right now, my secondary camera has some lag, so apologies for that. Uh, anyway, uh, when we say we're building a keyboard, it doesn't mean we're building it from scratch. It's more like saying we're building a computer, and that means we're actually getting several component parts and we're combining them to build one finished product. So here, or what I started with, is this is a what we call a bare bones keyboard. It already has two of the components necessary to build the keyboard. One is the case, and two are the PCB, or where the electronics are. So if you see these are where the switches go, and these are the stabilizers for keys that are larger than normal. For example, this one is for the space bar. Yeah, and then these are the switches, and I've started to insert them. So I guess good for you, in the sense that you won't be waiting long. As you can see, I've already uh, filled out most of the, or well, not most, but several of the slots. So this is a switch. This is a Gateron Brown switch, and then beneath, you can see there are like three pins. There are actually two metal pins and one plastic to basically hold it. So normally we put them here, and then yeah, then you hear the solid click. And then what I did earlier was plug this in and insert them to a keyboard tester to see if it's working. I'll show it to you now. So this is my screen. I apparently hadn't turned on the window. So this is what we do to test. For example, here it's working, but the F10 seems to be not working. That means I made something wrong here. Let me just get a switch puller. So, switch puller is something we use to take out the switches. So, it's this. Okay. I'll just swap our scenes. So, it's this button isn't working. So, I need to take it out and then diagnose what's the problem. Is it the switch? Is there a broken pin somewhere? Did I not insert it correctly? Okay. And apologies for that. I dropped my microphone. So let's try to pull this out. I'm not the best at pulling switches. This is actually my first time building this entire mechanical keyboard, so please bear with me. Okay, I'm just having trouble pulling it. Let's try a different puller. So I have some tools here, and yeah, so just to show you why some building a mechanical keyboard isn't that easy, but it also is not that hard. It just requires a lot of time and patience. It's still not working. Oops, the switch flew. Okay, so the problem here, I don't know if you see it, but we have a bent pin. So just adjusting it, making it unbend. or we could have some damage pins. But luckily, we still have some spare switches. Well, here's another switch that had a bent pin. Earlier, I wasn't able to use it because it wasn't fitting in quite right. But let's see if it's working now. Well, there's that sound. Okay, it's still not working. Yeah, sorry. Apparently, I hadn't inserted it properly. Well, there's that audible click, but I'm clicking it, it's still not working. Let me check. Maybe it's not working because of... Okay, it's working now. It's just I hadn't clicked on the correct window. And then let's see. Let's test the other switches. I'll switch here to the scene, and then... Yeah, so I'm pressing all of those to test which are working and which aren't. So the ones I have so far are working, well, except apparently the S. Okay. So yeah, so that's how we troubleshoot. The S actually is quite loose, so that's why it didn't register. So my bad. Let's put there. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, there's still several keys you have to go through. So that's basically the process. We insert it, we test if it works, and then later we insert the keycaps. And then it might not be obvious to you, but yeah, I made some mistakes earlier in the video, in the sense that I had to reshoot this several times. So apologies if I've forgotten something, because in my mind I already said it, but since I'm repeating myself to you guys and girls, yeah. Okay, so going back to keyboards, right now I'm inserting switches, and there are several types of switches, which is actually what's good about keyboards. You're not limited to one type of experience. You can customize it and adjust it. So Cherry was the original supplier of these switches. They were an American company that eventually became a German-owned company, and for the longest time they were the only ones supplying these type of switches, partially because manufacturers of computers stopped making mechanical keyboards, so it became less lucrative for other manufacturers, and second, because they also had patents. So they weren't the only ones. Like, you have Topper from Japan, I think, but in the English speaking market, these were the ones that became relatively popular. And then in the early 2000s, their patent expired, which gave way for other manufacturers to create innovations or to clone them. So right now, what we're using are actually Gaterons, which is a clone of, which mimics the switches of Cherry. And in the Cherry, there are actually several colors, but the three basic ones are I'll explain now. So we have the reds, which are what we call linear. They're linear because they're quick and silent. They don't require a deep hard press to register. So they're usually preferred by gamers because for gaming you want fast and immediate response. But the problem there is, for me as a touch typist, it's possible to make accidental presses, so that's why I'm not fond of red switches. However, it's also down to preference and what your use case is. And then after the reds, there's the blues. Blues are the opposite ends. They're what we call clicky switches. So as you can hear from the name, they're very loud, but they also give a lot of feedback. So they're the ones that I actually started out with, but because they also a bit hard to press, I thought maybe I'd try something different. So that's how I came upon these. These are browns. These are cherry, but these are Gateron. So browns are somewhere in between. They're actually called tactile switches because they have this tactile feedback when you press them, and they're not as loud as clicky switches, but they're still louder than the red linears. And then of course there'll be other varieties that are somewhere in between, like there's the whites, which are lighter or light or yeah lighter than the reds, I think. Or and there's the greens, which are harder to press than the blues. But I don't have access to them, and I'm not sure if I want those. So, and actually that's where part of the mechanical keyboard journey is. It's like finding the switch for you, or in some cases a combination of switches. Like for example, maybe I've heard somebody for the WASD keys, they might be linear and then the rest are clicky switches. Like that's one option. Right now, I just want to be finished building this keyboard. So I'm just getting my focus is getting all of the browns right and making sure that all the switches are working, and then I'll work on the keycaps. And then also with regards to these type of switches, there are usually two types. One are the 3 pins, which showing you now. So yeah, so there's one white and those two metal pins, and then there's another one that's 5 pins. It basically means it's due to the keyboard PCB you're using. Like I'm using a hot swap version, so normally they accept 3 pins, but there's another type. I think not sure if it's what we call plate mounted, but that one, it's usually for PCBs that aren't hot swappable. So those things usually have 5 pins. Okay, so now we ran into another problem. The D1 isn't registering, so have to take it out and see what's wrong. Yeah, so here the pin is squished. Let's see if I can correct it. Yeah, it was crushed for some reason. I'm trying to correct it via my nails, but that might not be the best solution. Oops. So now it's less bent, but I'm not sure if this is enough. Let's see. Okay, that was good enough. So yeah, so there are those types of things you run into. That's why you need to test them. Then I want to emphasize, like, this. Yeah, there are some difficulties, but it's also not that hard. You just need a lot of patience and willingness to learn. Yeah, so going back, yeah, so this is a hot swap keyboard. That's why it uses 3 pins. The 5 pins usually it's for stabilizing, and then we're talking about patience. For those, you also need to solder them. So I don't know if you had soldering experience, but in my school, in like my senior year, we had soldering for our science physics class. So that's my experience. But I'm personally not a fan of soldering, and I don't have a soldering iron here available, so that's not an option for me. So what I got was a hot swappable keyboard like this. So that if I want to customize my keyboard, I don't need to do some soldering. Yeah. And then another aspect here, it's the sound or the loudness. There are actually several things you can do or that can affect the noise levels. One obviously are the switches, another are the keycaps that we'll be using. But even before those, there are some steps you can do to mute the noise of your keyboard. One is actually to get a keyboard mat that can actually dampen the sound, and it's the cheapest, and you don't need to open your keyboard to do that. And then another is you open up this case and you can put foam there. That's another way of dampening the sound. There's also the type of material we use. Like, I'm not sure if this is plastic or aluminum, but obviously the material will have an effect on the type of sound you get. Some people prefer aluminum keyboards because they're heftier and presumably they're sturdier. And yeah, there's also the effect of what happens when keys collide with that with the sound of the case. And then there's also what we call lubing, which is short for lubricating. We can here we have stabilizers, for example, so we can lubricate that part. But another is we get our switch, we open it up, and then inside we lubricate it. So that's another way we can change the effect of both the feel and the sound of our keyboard. But again, I'm still new to this, so I'm not yet familiar with all those other steps. So right now we are going pretty basic, just using it as is. Yeah, although the more experienced people who build keyboards, yeah, they might do some lubing. And yeah, and just like we might have different switches, there are different kinds of lubes with usually one thing you look there is viscosity, and depending on the viscosity, there are different effects on the sound and the feel. And then one of the warnings is don't lube clicky switches, because if you do and you don't do it correctly, it might not sound clicky anymore, which defeats the purpose. Take this out. Yeah. So apologies. A switch wasn't embedded deeply, so it flew out. Then we have this other switch which with pins that's bent, so it's not as not sure if that's why it didn't register. Okay, I might need to take this out. It's not registering. So I'll put that aside from now and then try a different switch. It's a good thing I have extras so that I don't have to troubleshoot it individually. Seems like there wasn't any specific problems there. Just how the keyboard really is. Let's try it for a different switch. It's working. This one. really bent. Yeah, sorry, should move this so that you can see it. Yeah, okay, it's a bit too hard. Maybe this one's better. Okay, it's working. There's just that one. Okay. Let's go back here. I just got the weird sound from pressing the shift too many times. Yeah. So here, the context menu. Okay. Here, the control. Okay. So we're almost there. There's just this 8 keys that we have to go through before I move on to the keycaps. So there, that's working. And then here, it's working. Yeah. So, oh yeah, I might have missed it, but this is what we call a 10 keyless keyboard, and that's because this doesn't have the numpad, so there's less keys. And some people like that because it's more ergonomic. When your hand is on the right side and it switches to the mouse, there's less travel distance. That's why it's easier in that case. But yeah, and it's slightly cheaper in the sense that there's less switches I have to buy or to insert, which, you know, when you've been doing this for the past hour, less keys is more. But there are also various sizes. We have what we call the 60%, 65%, and 75% keyboards, to even probably, I think, 40%, which are smaller. Well, the advantage of those, it's there's less keys involved, and it's presumably lighter because there's less switches. Okay, so right now we're done, and I can pack this keycap puller. Sorry, the switch puller, not keycaps. I'm gonna unveil my keycaps yet. And that's really dependent on how much I memorized my keyboard. So here we have this Hyperx Pbt Keycaps. There's basically two materials used for keycaps. One is ABS and another is PBT. So PBT is more durable, but it's also more expensive, and it's harder to have your to show your characters there, while ABS is cheaper, but one of the downsides is it can accumulate your oils, and your keycaps develop this what we call shine. Yeah, so still adjusting the keyboard or the camera so that you can see it better. So here I found my F4. Okay, and inserting it here. There. So G, A, S, D, F, G. So these are double shot Pbt keycaps. What double shot means is that it's comprised of 2 layers, so that one is the material itself and one so that the light can shine through for the special characters. So yeah, there. And then I think this is the enter key. Am I correct? No, not sure. Well, we can postpone that for later. I'm just not sure. ASD. Okay. Yeah. So I just have all these random letters and I'm not sure where they go. 3, 4, 5. It's just yeah. So yeah, there are just several other keys. So what's special about these keycaps? They're what we call pudding keycaps. So they're like pudding in the sense, yeah, you have these two layers. So one is the black, and but below it there's this transparent filter so that the RGB can shine through. So basically, one of the things you can do to customize your keyboard and the feel of your keyboard and the sound is to change your keycaps. So these are PBT, and yeah, there's also ABS, which aesthetically might look better, but yeah, what we said, the oils in your fingers can eventually make it look what we call shiny, and that also affects the feel. Yeah, but also not all keycaps are created equal. Like normally, for the better manufacturers to compensate for the fragility of ABS, they might make the keycap sticker. So that's one way to compensate. Like here, it's not quite showing in my. It seems that my camera has hanged, so I'll just show it here. Okay, it's working now, I think. Yeah. So here's the keycap, and then the below. These are what we call cherry stems. So that's important to know in the sense that you want, like for example, topper switches don't work with cherry stems. These are Gaterons and they have cherry stems, so they're compatible with keycaps that support cherry stems. So that's why, yeah. So basically, if you see this here, this cross at the back, the circle plus cross, those are what we call cherry stems. And then again, apologies for the technical difficulties. My other camera seems to have hanged, and I don't really know how to fix this, aside from the fact that it's just really lag coming from the internet. Oh yeah, sorry, from my Wi-Fi, not the internet. Okay, so maybe I can adjust my main webcam here. Just getting it so that you can see. Is it working? No. Maybe we'll just leave that there for now, or while I troubleshoot my camera. Yeah, my camera seems to have died, so let's just reopen it. Well, it's not working, so apologies for that. I'll just continue building this keyboard, or maybe we can switch views so that you can see what I'm dealing with or what my guide is. So, oops, yeah. And so I have this guide keyboard checker to see when it's working. Let me check the camera. It's still hanged. Let's see. Okay, hopefully that would restart the camera. Not connected. Vcam. Okay, so that should hopefully fix this scene. Okay. So now the camera's working again. Apologies for that. I still don't have a good camera setup. Still working on it. Anyway, yeah. So we're back to here. Keyboard where we're still inserting keycaps one by one. Yeah, and these are pudding, so you can see the light shine through them, or the RGB rather. And actually I just got this keyboard yesterday and I haven't touched it since then, so I still don't know actually what all the function of this keyboard can actually do. Oh yeah, then this view, I think this is the shift. Check. Looks like I inserted this wrong, so I need to get the Keycap Puller. So here's a Keycap Puller, rather this part. We use it to take out the keycaps. Although here apparently I also pulled out the switch accidentally, which isn't good on my end. So I'll have to take this out manually. Okay. So putting this back in. The chip is working. It's too big. How do we put this? Just like this. This? Is it like this? Yeah. So just got an error message. So from pressing the shift too many times. Yeah. So I know this works, but for this one, I think it's too small, so it's might be for a different set. And that's why there's some spare keycaps here, because they cover the different sizes. Yeah, so I think this is the one for here. PUC inserted the smaller one, so that's why it wasn't quite registering. So that's better. Okay. Do I have a caps lock or tab? No, sorry. So apologies, I just got cut off there. Apparently my recorder stopped for some reason. Might be because I was pressing the shift key too many times when I was testing the keyboard. Well, learning pains. So here I'm opening a new set of keycaps as encounter as I'm done with the first batch. So here at least it's slightly more organized, so I can see them or where they're supposed to go. Yeah, so part of the joys is customizing the experience. You know, you're choosing the keys that you want, but you're also choosing the keycaps, and you can change their colors if you or their design. Yeah. So yeah, and then right, I'm just wondering how I can combine the two videos, but we'll see. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So yeah, so what happened earlier was I actually, because these are non-standard keycaps, so I had to consult this chart to see what some of the symbols were. Like, I didn't know this one was tab, this one was the caps lock, and then this confused me with the shift key, and then yeah, this was the enter. So I had to consult this chart to figure out which one was which. But anyway, so here we're building more of the keyboard, and it's, you know, getting there. Then I hope, yeah, this spacebar is the right size. Yeah, it's a nice sound. So we're almost there. We have several of the keys connected, and then at a later date, that if I get bored of these, I can always just take them out again. So this is a, well, this is a switch puller, but this one is a keycap puller, so that's what it's for. And then apparently I'll be using it because I inserted the B in the wrong place. And then again, the switch came with it. Yeah. This is a challenge, pulling them out, because ideally it's just supposed to be the keycap and not the switch goes along with it. Okay, C. Okay, there. But yeah, I guess when your switches aren't soldered, I guess that's the risk. Or rather, maybe just for this specific build, which is why those support switches matter. What I mean support, like we discussed the number of pins. Yeah, usually there are 2 extra pins that add support. And then where does this go? Where does this alt key go? Alt goes here, and then this one goes here. Okay, so we're 2/3 of the way there. There's just one more that we need to open. So we have this, just need to open this, and then we're nearly done. Okay, so just give me a sec while I open this, and apologies, we're not in an ideal setup, and I've been here for what, an hour and a half with some occasional failures. some keys actually we won't be using because we're using a 10 keyless keyboard. That's right. So let's maybe adjust this there. Get so you can see it better. Yeah, so we're actually almost there. There's just a few more keys and then we're done. Okay, F12 plus minus and backspace. What else are we missing? The backslash. Then we have the keys at the bottom. I'll need to consult what these are supposed to be. Do we have a function key? No. This is the Windows key. Oh, context menu. Okay, here's the function key. And then control. Control. Okay, so just 9 more keys and then we'll be done. So print screen, scroll lock, and pause. So some interesting history, yeah. So we have the print screen button, which captures an image on your screen. Scroll lock, I don't know what that actually does. And we have pause, which was actually useful back in the 80s when we were in MS-DOS, but right now for Windows it still has a use, but it's very limited. So insert home and page up. Okay, so there's the 3 keys, and then rest is delete and end page down. Okay, and there you go. We're done building our keyboard with budding keycaps. Let me just pack in the unused keycaps for future use or for future reference, or if you have just a numpad, these would fill in the gaps for those. So I really need to figure out a system for keeping these keycaps, yeah. But anyway, we've built a keyboard, seems to be working. But you know what? Maybe I should do a typing test. Yeah, just let me back this up and I'll do a typing test that you can see. Okay, so there, and then from here, I'm not in the best position, but yeah, bear with it for 1 minute. Okay. And did my internet hang? It feels like so. Oh well, but at least we were able to do some typing, and I do like the sound and the feel of that. Yeah, so it looks like my okay, there we go. So I did 123 words per minute. Yeah, I usually do somewhere between 110 to 120, so that actually was pretty good. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hope you tune in next time again.